We are.
Okay. Grand Rising, everyone. This is Ron. It is Saturday, 18th of July, 2026, 10:03 a.m. And let us begin. We will see if we have any questions. I hope your week went well. It is extremely hot out there, at least here in the upstate of South Carolina. But I hope you are well. Any questions about anything about your week or anything we may have discussed in the last few weeks? Okay. Pastor, did you have anything?
Um, I wanted to look at what we talked about on Monday
Excuse me. Yes, sir.
and speak of some things in addition to that. But um, first of all, I'm sure that most of the memories are about the video that we watched on Monday and discussed. However, we also talked about the rivers, and I see a correlation between our discussion about the rivers as well as our discussion about the video. What I'm saying in essence, I suppose, is that the rivers, the video, and the what Israel really means. I see all of those as tied together. And I also see them as a signal to us or a message to us that not only are we at the right place at the right time in terms of our study and understanding, but also we are at a crucial point where our belief in self and the embracing of it, regardless of whether we understand it or not, is extremely important. So I know you've already asked if there are questions, Ron,
Yes,
but
sir.
I want to see if there are any specifically aligned with the rivers or that video before I get started, offering what I have been shown.
Okay.
This is for Mel.
Uh-huh.
My question starts with not that all of us, what is the God, what are they referring to when they call it the particle?
God particle, God gene, God essence, or the divine essence, divine gene, just however you want to,
Hmm.
whatever adjective you want to use, but all of them are the same.
I'm
Let's say,
still I still don't
okay,
quite understand.
what's your spiritual essence? Is your spiritual essence divine?
Yes.
Okay, if I were doing it from a scientific perspective,
Mhm.
I would probably say the essence of the God particle is divine.
Okay.
Hey everyone.
Are you able to see that? Huh?
Yes, I think I can see that.
I
Okay.
can help with that too. Um,
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Nick.
hey everyone. Yeah, Ms. Vermel, did you I assume you just I'm not sure where you saw that, but that
I did. I stayed on to record. So, yes.
oh, I mean I mean I'm not sure where you saw the or read the term God particle, but that
Oh, it was the video that you
yeah.
sh- they the teachers talked
Nick,
about.
Nick,
Oh,
the
okay.
video that I did for the teachers.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I did not see that. But
Oh, okay.
the the that term has been used in physics to apply to something that they found or confirmed, I think, the existence of some years ago. But that's sort of their way of saying that that is a complete understanding of reality, in that it sort of uh, brings a finality to their understanding of material physics. So that's a little bit of a uh, hyperbole on their part because they don't actually mean that, but they called it that anyway.
Okay.
But it does not bring that finality. It's just something that they thought was very integral to their understanding of the material reality. But it's a bit of a very much an overstatement on their part.
Now I understand because my second question was going to be, so they understand then that what they're doing is an illusion, but that makes more sense now to me. They're just using the term
Yeah.
that they don't really have an understanding of.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Any other questions?
They'll probably come later from me.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, sir.
Questions or comments?
Yes, sir. This is Janice. I've seen the video, but I wasn't able to attend Monday. So I was just wondering if you could give a summary of what you guys covered about the video.
Yes, I suppose we can. Let me see how we're going to do this.
Or maybe just what
I'll
you
tell you what.
take away from that. Yeah.
Let me do this, because there are going to be more questions, more than likely, about what we talked about the video.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to, Sheldon, are you on?
I am on. I'm not exactly with the computer ready. I was just about to chime in and say I could have the video ready in about 5 minutes.
Okay, let me do this then. Let me go over what we talked about, the rivers, while you get that together. And after we talk to this about the rivers, then you do that, and then we go back to it, okay?
Okay, I'll just get it ready. But yeah,
Okay.
that's why I'm getting ready. You just chime in and let me know
All right.
what to play.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
In regards to the video, I think there were quite a few people who did not see it, and only a handful who stayed on who did see it. So we'll go to that in a minute. However, we started talking about responding to a question that Charles raised, and that question was in regards to the rivers that were coming from the place of Eden, or the Garden of Eden. And we pretty much concluded that the Garden of Eden is not a physical place, it's more of a spiritual place. And the only ones who see it as a physical place are those who are in denial about the real meaning of a Kabbalah, and that is European religion. So when we look at the garden spiritually, what do we see? It's a sacred place of divine presence. And that divine presence that actually is the inner harmony that we have with not only ourselves, but also with the environment, the natural environment around us, and the spiritual energy that is our existence, or is who we are. And the four rivers that we spoke of, I'm not going into and dealt with them as we did last week, but I do want to, at the very least, I'll give an overview of what they mean as a refresher. Python speaks to the spiritual illumination that flows into our consciousness. So these rivers are actually pathways of energy, of spiritual growth, spiritual awareness. Let me put it that way. Yes, spiritual awareness. Because when we talk about consciousness. Consciousness is another way of speaking of being aware of something. So the Python, however you pronounce it, speaks to spiritual illumination that flows into our consciousness of the earth, the consciousness of the earth. This flow of energy is a catalyst that gives us desire to pursue divine wisdom. And Gion, being the second energy flow that it speaks of coming from Eden, is the emotional realm and the descent of the soul into the denser physical vessel, which means that it speaks to the descent of the soul into the physical body. And Tigris is it symbolizes intellect, and this intellect that it symbolizes is not the intellect that we are accustomed to, but it talks about or speaks to the energetically purpose of intellect, and that energy, that purpose. Mute your phone, please. Would you make sure your phones are muted? That intellect is focused on our spiritual goals. So intellect is focused on spirituality or desire to understand and embrace spirituality. And the Euphrates itself symbolizes physical development in spiritual ways, and also manifestation and human interaction with the fifth world, which means that it's talking about our physical development spiritually, as well as our manifest methodology for interacting with this physical world. Us having descended into these physical bodies means that we have the interaction with this physical world through our physical bodies, but it does not make us physical. We are still spiritual beings, yet we do interact with this physical world. And our interaction with this physical world actually gives us the sense of being, brings us to a reality, if we choose to, of being the divine ones or the gods in this world that is housed in these physical bodies. And then the questions about that so far. Okay. So this presence of ours in this physical environment is to give us opportunity to be who we are, meaning that when we are aware that we are God, when we are aware that we are divine, then that means that we embrace a form of reality, meaning that we don't know what reality is until we are in the throes of embracing who we are. The things that we have considered to be reality are definite illusions, because that which is reality spiritually are those things which cannot be dissolved. They are not temporal at all. Therefore, our bodies are not truly reality. Our bodies are temporal, because our bodies dissolve into the element of this earth, as opposed to remaining eternally as they appear to be right now. Any questions about that?
What I'd like to see, if you don't mind, because we started this by looking at the damming of the rivers. So when you went over the four names and the energy fields the energy that they represent, talk about that, the damming of the rivers, how that ties together.
Okay. Well, when we talk about the damming of the rivers, I think that was pretty easily seen by us if we look at it from the spiritual perspective. What do I mean? if we look at ourselves when we were engaged in religion, we had no clue as to what it would look like or what even existed when we talked about spiritual illumination, bringing us to a state of awareness of the consciousness of this earth. And we had no idea of the spiritual unicity that our emotions have with the essence of divinity. We never thought that we were divine. We believed and were taught that we would be with the divine, with God when we died. But it was impossible for us to be God, even though we were created in that image and likeness. And our intellect was to be used in order to promote our promoting ease of living or in this spiritual world. This physical world. And our intellect was focused truly on getting a better handle on our spiritual, our physical existence. And at the same time, the sidebar of our physical existence was religion. And this religion was the sidebar in that it presented itself as being spiritual, not with understanding that intellect was the goal, was geared toward rather embracing and understanding spirituality. Our intellect was to understand this physical world or the philosophy of it or the science of it, everything in this physical world with the exception of what truly is reality, and that's spirituality. And when it came to our interaction with the physical world, our interactions did not go beyond our interactions with each other. We were not told that we were to interact with the trees, with the animals, with the birds, with the waters, etc. So all those things were dammed up, meaning that they were, if we look at them symbolically, we would see that what the dams are really placed, they are placed in rivers and some, very few, but some lakes. Why are they placed in rivers? Because they're placed at the top of water tables, and that gives a controlled flow into the waters that people use to live. An example of that is Philadelphia being at the bottom of the water table that begins in New York, and the water table that New York lives from begins in the northern part of New York. So all these dams that have taken place have actually, in a spiritual way, depleted or at the very least slowed the flow of spiritual understanding in the earth. And we see it as being dammed up because we need it for power, for utility power. But that is one reason that they use it. Yet the damming of it stopped the flow, or the free flow rather, of life itself in the earth. And religion is no different than the dams that exist on the rivers. The river of our spiritual flow, the energy flows from the divine presence, which is called the Garden of Eden. The divine flow from that was hindered by religion. So religion has been a dam in our lives, and we have gotten trickles from these energy flows that we spoke about earlier, that the rivers represent. And the trickles that we have gotten are there because religion has taken control of everything in this earth, and it has caused us to lose our sense of remembrance of what spiritual life is. And here we are now, having recognized the trinkles of the flow of spirituality, and now expanding on them to the point where we realize what these dams are about. However, at the same time, we realize who we are as spiritual beings, the first spiritual beings in the earth, and that is the gods or the divine ones in the earth. Is that what you are referencing, Ron?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions or comments about that? What we looked at in the video that Sheldon is preparing to show is this the CERN, and in the CERN, when they talked about the moving of the atoms, what they actually did, they sped up the movement of atoms in this contraption called a collider, and in that collider, they gathered several light beams from the atoms that were flowing at the speed of light in this CERN. And all of those beams began to center themselves in one particle. And the particle that they centered themselves in is a particle that's smaller than a grain of sand. And it was that particle was called the God gene, and a God particle. And the reason it was called the God particle is because of the accumulation of light in such a small space, as well as with an understanding of Einstein's idea of the actual creation being housed in a dense particle, no larger than a quarter, and exploded into everything that we see now as the universe itself and the different galaxies, as well as what exists here on the earth. And the one of the things that was spoken of in reference to this is the crashing of the timeline, and the timeline. When he spoke about the timeline of being having crashed, when we really think about the things that we knew beforehand but don't exist anymore, and one that we always reference is when the scripture talked about God saying that it would bring us back to its bosom, or back to it, even if we had to bring us across the great river in chains. Well, that no longer appears in the scriptures, even though we know for a fact it was there. So the timeline has been not so much altered as much as we have moved into another dimension. And that dimension that we have moved in, that movement was inspired or instigated by our desire to understand more deeply who we are, and embracing with totality the words that were written in the book concerning that we are being brought back to our understanding of God, even if it had to take place in chains. That was a foretelling of what was to happen in order for the divine ones, or the gods of this earth, to come to its senses and bring to its remembrance the essence of who we are. And the moment that we embrace that reality, excuse me, that this whole idea of being brought across the river in chains was far more deeper, the concept or the idea of the reality in our lives, anyway, of it, had a greater message than hatred, a greater message than what we thought it was. And the greater message was this was allowed to be in order for us to be shaken so that we can have a clearer memory of who we are, in addition to where we came from. And now that that memory is clearer, and now that we have embraced it, the dimension that we are in now is a totally different dimension than what we were existing in prior to where this the dimension that we came into. So that timeline actually collapsed, and with that collapsing came a transformation, and we are living that transformation now. And it is my contention that that when the physicists who are talking about who talked about the God particle, or talked about the light that exists in that small particle, their reference to that was that in this small particle was the essence of the light that brought everything into existence. And the day would come when we would understand and become the light bodies. And I would get more into that in relationship to Jesus' death, resurrection, that kind of thing, and how it relates to the message that we heard from the physicists, and helping us from the physicists that help us to understand the spiritual nature of what it means, not only for the collapse of a timeline, but what it means also for us to move into light bodies as happened with the resurrection, and how our resurrection takes place for us to have that experience as well. And before we get started, please understand that the word CERN, C-E-R-N, is simply an abbreviation, I think it's from Belgian language, that speaks to the European Organization of Nuclear Research. And the European Organization of Nuclear Research is tantamount to what NASA is to us in this country. So with having said that, let me also say to you that the verbiage here is a bit different than the verbiage that a lot of us are accustomed to hearing. So let us listen to it with a ear of discernment, as well as with a spiritual ear, to embrace and understand the relationship between this and who we are spiritually. Sheldon, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead, please. Thank you.
Wait a minute. This is so deep. Check this out, guys.
They didn't break the Large Hadron Collider, they stabilized it. And what CERN just achieved means that humanity has exactly 4 years to evolve, or we will be completely somewhat obsolete. Let me show you the map. Right now, CERN is pushing 7 tera-electron volts per beam. To make this simple, a TeV, or tera-electron-volt, is the energy of a flying mosquito, but it's compressed into a space 1 trillion times smaller than a grain of sand. Right now, they're actually intentionally climbing toward a 14 TeV design. In the 14th framework, the exact atomic number of silicon is bridging us out of the carbon-6 structure. In 2016, physics prodigy Max Laughlin pointed out that when CERN discovered the God particle, the energy density was so massive it likely collapsed our original timeline. We shifted into an adjacent parallel dimension, and that's the true origin of the Mandela effect. Basically, it's the quantum artifact of timelines bleeding together. Project Looking Glass already proved this when military intelligence hit a wall in the year 2012, and this is when timelines started to converge. So what's happening right now at this pause? CERN just confirmed back in March that they stabilized a beam. The chaos in the collider is over, and the macro and micro are finally merging. We are now compacting information and energy into a single proton, and we are accelerating the switching signal faster than the speed of light. This creates zero latency across time, energy, and space. When you have zero latency, you process infinite output without extracting physical resources. We are gaining the ability to move in and out of alternative dimensions based purely on our own resonance. what happens is we will create and destroy them instantaneously without harming life. Now, this comes with a terrifying responsibility. When your processing speed hits zero latency, your thoughts manifest into reality immediately. If you hold on to fear, you will literally create your own demise just as fast. So CERN is giving us a 4-year window before they bring this back online and things really start to change. And through this, we are becoming the creator of the tools we observe. We must surrender the old human blueprint and step into our true design, which is ye are gods. You have 4 years to figure it out.
Completely insane, other words, eye-opening. I don't know this, and I don't understand most of the thing he just revealed. But yeah, we have smart people up here, so comment if you understand this. And I'm very open to be educated about this. I don't know anything. I'm trying to understand whatsoever he got going on, but I think I didn't get all of them. So let me know what you think about this in the comment section.
Okay, thank you, Sheldon. There are aspects of this that we talked about, and one is that the 4 years, we talked about 4 years to adjust to this. We only have 4 years to adjust to this. I don't see this as, I see this as being pure physics or science in that regard. However, the number 4 speaks to the idea of a creative manifestation. And I do not believe that this was brought to our attention haphazardly, just as nothing else has been brought to our attention haphazardly. Also, this idea and concept of dimensional change, it cannot be denied simply because it's science, because we have talked about dimensional change in reference to the existence of this, the ability to move between dimensions in regards to what happens in Kemet, as well as the reason that we are not allowed entrance into the caverns and the temples that exist in the Grand Canyon today, because they do indeed understand that dimensional travel is real, but they cannot control it. Neither are they able to make it happen simply on demand. So they, meaning the people who are the European mindset that's in control of this world, but seeking to control the spiritual world as well. And on Monday night, I talked about 11-11-11. That was the period when we met in Columbia as teachers, and we also during that period of time, during this, once the soldiers determined that the Mayan message to us is that there would be a collapse of humanity in 2012, and we determined that that was not going to take place because we were going to be the ones who stand in the gap, and we were going to be the ones who were assured that humanity would not cease existence. And now that I understand where we are and what we've seen and talked about, this ceased in existence. I was determined that that was not going to happen. I don't think that we totally understood what we were saying during that period. And now I do understand the reason we were guided to say that is because we are to demonstrate a dominance in the earth, and it was not flesh and blood that led us to saying that. It was the divine. There was a divine message that was inspired by our Creator, and when we made that determination, since then we have begun to see in a greater depth the spiritual nature of everything that is. Have we seen everything? No, we haven't. But everything we've been shown speaks to the spiritual nature, the spiritual essence of everything that exists. And as a result of that, we have been able to stave off the demise of humanity. And when we talk about bringing balance to humanity, as a result of our being God. What we are actually talking about is staving off the destruction of humanity. Because if we had not stepped into the gap, if we had not embarked on this journey of this quest of knowing who we are, there's no doubt in my mind that the mindset of the European would have and would be in a greater in a greater space of destruction, of destroying everything in this earth. Because quite frankly, when Ron at the onset was talking about how hot it is, it's simply because this mindset has destroyed portions of the ozone, and that destruction continues to this day, and complete destruction of that will indeed end life in the earth. So when we made that declaration in 2011 in regards to the message from the Mayans, we are the ones who have kept that from happening, and now we are to repair the damage that has been done to the earth. So I'm going to now open it for questions, and I wanted to go over what we pretty much a lot of the things we talked about. Because I wanted to see if it brought some semblance, anyway, of clarity, so that we could have some questions in regards to the video that you just listened to. Questions, comments?
Yes, sir. So if I understood what I heard, and Homeboy was talking really fast, John was experimenting with, it sounds like, moving particles really quickly, and there were some moving at the speed of light.
Beyond the speed of light.
Okay. And they were, those that were moving, I guess, faster than the speed of light actually collapsed into a single space. And the gentleman that was sharing that information said that as a result of that experimentation, timelines were collapsed, and we have an opportunity to evolve, and we have a certain period of time to do it, because once that happens, we'll, I'm going to say the training wheels will come off, and the way we perceive reality and the way we think will come to pass. Excuse me. Will come to pass immediately. Whereas right now we have a bit of time and space between sort of us thinking it and then something manifesting. Is that right?
Yes, that's what you said.
Okay. I want to make sure I got it.
Based on that, we have for quite some time been talking about the now and being careful about what we say, how we say it, because that determines the environment that we live in individually and in many instances collectively. So this lack of delay that he talked about is something we've talked about, but not in the same terms that he spoke of it. Now, do I believe that that's possible? Of course I do. Because if it were not possible, then how can you create, bring something into manifestation by creating? How can it happen instantly? We've talked about how time is sped up. And the speed, when time speeds up to a point where time itself collapses, whether it's in your life or the life of the environment, then everything does happen immediately. I do not believe that is going to happen to all of humanity. I do believe it's more of a message to those who have embraced the reality that they are God. I do believe, I know that it's at a point in time that we are going to we are going to have a greater understanding of what it means to be light bodies. And when it talked about, when the scriptures talked about this entity called Jesus being in more than one place at one time, being able to move from one place to the other rather instantly, this was simply talking about moving from a carbon state to a state of silicon, or a state of light. And that's how that was accomplished. This was not about a man named Jesus. This was a message to those who understand the essence of divine deliverance. And that divine deliverance says that you're able to do that. Now, when it talked about the particles being in more than one place, occupying more than one place at one time, think about this. If you are familiar with the sparkles that people light during the time they shoot fireworks, and you take one of those sparkles and hold it in your hand and you spin it around, and it appears to be one solid circle. It really is not a circle as it appears to be, but what happens is it appears that the particles that are coming from that spark are occupying more than one place at one time. And that's what gives us the sense of that sparkle being a circle because of how we spin it. And if you can move that exponentially to the movement of the particles in that CERN that exceeds the speed of light, then you can see, hopefully anyway, why it was compressed into one particle at the speed that it was, because of the speed that it was moving. Janice, I think that's pretty much what you were saying, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I do believe we're on the verge of not I don't believe it, I know it. We are on the verge of transformation, and that transformation takes place in a spiritual way, and the revelation that we receive as a result of it is much faster than what it has been, and anything that we can imagine. And the other part of it is that when you talked about the conversions of macro and micro, to me, what I see in that is a conversion of time and spirit, meaning that the energy that's in this earth converges with the energy of our spirituality, and it becomes as above, so as below is what we've been talking about, and that is conceptual. That I take from that to be a concept that physics is trying to duplicate or explain. So I do also urge us not to be like the Catholic Church was during the period when Galilee was talking about not Galilee. What's that man name? The guy with
Galileo?
the Galileo, yeah, that dude. When they excommunicated him from the church because they said that there was no such thing as science in regards to gravity. It was simply spiritual, and think about that. Those words coming from the mouth of someone who does not have a clue as to what spirituality is. And as a result of that, religion began to dismiss science altogether, as opposed to being able to see that science and spirituality are always coexisted in Kemet, in the Kushite kingdom, even though now it doesn't, because of the mindset of those who have made science a god within itself, as opposed to understanding that science came from, it's an understanding that's given from the God of creation. I'm done. questions, comments about anything that's been said in that, or I said, or Janice said, or questions that you may have, period, about anything?
Hi, this is
Yes, I
Angela.
have
I
a
have a question.
I yield.
Thank you. The question, yeah, so what is,
Angela,
mhm,
Angela, hold on. I
okay,
am not the only one who's going to be fielding these questions, okay? And I'm not saying that to you, Angela. I'm saying that to the rest of them who will be fielding some of these questions, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Go
I
ahead.
was, the question, it's the, what do they get the CERN, that these researchers get the particles, the God, what is it, the God gene? I know we are, but what did they,
Did,
to do their research? Yeah, that's what I meant, yeah.
it was, what happened, they built this collider, which is huge. And in that collider, they released light particles, all atoms. And those atoms, they started those atoms, the movement of those atoms, I guess, what was it, about 5 years ago, guys, or longer? And they allowed them to continue to move around in that collider until they begun to create beams of light individually until they actually collapsed into each other. So when you say where did they get their research, it's not like they picked up an atom and dropped it in there. It was a light beam, I think, that was shown into the beam itself, and that's what started to flow. Am I right, to those of you who have studied this?
Hey, this is Nick. Yeah, they can accelerate. They probably use certain kinds of materials inside the particle, like certain kinds of atoms, but they can accelerate anything as close to the speed of light as possible in order to collide the beams of particles. But I just wanted to say that. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that all this, as we've spoken about before, all this speaks to me of the increasing acceleration of an increase in frequency, not only individually, but also collectively, that we are experiencing. And as the video was saying, CERN is being shut down for a little while, and then they're going to restart it in, was it 4 years or something like that? But there's been much, talk amongst the esoteric and metaphysical circles about how CERN has impacted the world on an energetic and spiritual level. And of course it has. But just to sort of overview the video, as the guy was saying, if there's a pause, then that means there's a sort of pause in the way in which CERN has an influence over the frequency and overall energetic state of the Earth itself. And we don't have, it's not like we only have 4 years. No, I don't think that's correct either. But the point is that I think all of these things are converging. The nature of the scientific discovery, the nature of our awareness as to what it means to be a non-physical being inhabiting and enlivening this physical vehicle, our collective awareness and sense of what our responsibility is spiritually and in terms of frequency, all these things are converging together. Because as we collectively increase that frequency, as we accelerate or expand our awareness collectively, all these things seem to be pointing back to the same source or the same point. So that's in some way represented by what we see as the reunification of science and spirituality in the positive sense, as opposed to the purely materialistic sort of dogmatic sense, which is still very much in play, but we're seeing that lessen as we move forward and as we continue through this period of transition And it relates to, as Pastor Richard was saying, what the dawning awareness of the nature of the light body that we all are and that we all possess, but through the process of spiritual evolution, etc., is maybe, for lack of a better term, drawn into this physical material plane. The light body is something that is it's kind of like we, as our frequency and awareness expands and accelerates, we accelerate to it, as at the same time it is drawn here. So it's kind of like a meeting in the middle. But the whole idea is that with this increasing individual and collective awareness and frequency, we become more and more like our non-physical selves, or really the physical essence or material of these bodies itself is accelerated to become more like the light body that we see described in descriptions like Jesus transfiguring or being in multiple places at once, or similar descriptions of those kinds of phenomena coming out of other spiritual traditions from around the world. So one of the reasons it's, I think, related to CERN in particular, and particular scientific things that have happened, in particular when we dropped the first nuclear weapons in the 1940s, well, in the modern era in the 1940s. But it's related to these things because all of these things affect energy. They affect the energy of the planet, of us individually. They affect energy in other dimensions. And it's also related to the ET, the extraterrestrial phenomena, because many of those beings that we would refer to as extraterrestrial are beings who have found a way to inhabit the light body. So that is our destiny in a way, and many of those beings that we would call ETs are here to help facilitate this process. The transition to an awareness and a state of being that is more aligned with the true nature of reality, metaphysically and spiritually. And so there's a ton to go into in that topic, of course, but I'm just saying all these things are related because this time period that we're in is one of the acceleration and expansion of frequency and awareness to the point where we collectively begin to remember who and what we actually are. Now, there are, of course, forces that are trying to prevent this, and we are very familiar with those. Those that want to sort of maintain a low state of consciousness, a survival state of consciousness. Those that want to maintain a sort of dogmatic, literal, juvenile, foolish understanding of what is in a lot of religious texts, etc. There, even in the scientific community, there are those who want to maintain a certain purely materialistic, sort of relatively ignorant understanding of what the science is pointing to. But it's our responsibility and has been our task, and will continue to be our task, to push forward into this transitionary space and push forward in terms of our own consciousness and awareness and understanding of what it means to be inhabiting this physical vehicle, and to push forward with the responsibility that we have of transforming even this physical body as we move towards higher frequency, as we move towards what is called the light body, as we become more aware of our true relationship with the other dimensions of spirit and reality, which, in the positive side, the ETs, or extraterrestrial beings, so-called, are representative of and are attempting to sort of help us along with. And that's another reason that you keep seeing more and more about ETs in the actual mainstream news now, because there is an attempt by those forces that are trying to slow down or stop this process of collective enlightenment and acceleration to use the ET phenomena to instill fear and pretend like they're here to take us over or, beat us with sticks and eat us. This is stupid. And this will become more and more of a thing the closer we get to the true, I want to say, defeat of the negative forces in this earth trying to stop this process. So anyway, all of these things are related to this transition we are in and to the conscious acceleration increase in the frequency of our very vibration and being. And we can go into, what actually does increase that frequency, but all CERN, all modern science, all these things we are seeing in terms of even Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell dying, or at least Lindsey Graham passing away. I don't know. Mitch McConnell's somewhere in limbo or already dead. But even that, I think, is related because it represents, I believe, a sort of cutoff point at which a frequency has gone too high and a certain mindset in the earth, a certain, you could say, type of person or certain idea embodied in a person can't go farther. Like it cannot exist within this new environment that is being created. So that doesn't mean that there aren't still, negative things that can exist and that are trying to exert their influence still. But I believe that we'll see more of this as, to put it simply, the baby boomer generation and its, sort of bad actors and negative characters of people we don't like who are definitely on the negative side of things as the baby boomer generation begins to pass out of the earth at an increasingly accelerating rate. Anyway, that was a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. That really helped
Yeah.
unfold a lot. Thank you.
Mhm. And you answered the question too, which about the research. That research is connected to what we're doing. It's all connected, of course. But as we explore these ideas, I feel like it enables those shifts.
Yep. Even us becoming, aware of those ideas. I forget when the first time it was I mentioned, things like extraterrestrial or ET beings openly. Even that is kind of a little bit of a shock to the your mental state or sort of the way you thought of reality. And that's important because that's how the transition and growth is made. Your existing understanding has to be shaken a little bit. And that is in part the role that a lot of these ET beings play collectively. Like when they show up in the sky or wherever, or in a lucid dream or something like that, your very understanding of reality begins to expand because that was something you never expected. And so that is sort of the part of the facilitation of the process of accelerating your awareness or expanding your awareness so that you can be able to handle the actual reality that we are moving into. So I didn't actually see the movie, but that Steven Spielberg movie, Disclosure Day, or whatever that came out recently. I heard it was, as a movie, I heard it was just fine. But in terms of the more esoteric stuff that they were including in the movie, I think it was not bad in terms of the message, because I've kind of always felt like Steven Spielberg was on the side of light in terms of what he produces. And in this particular movie, they, for example, like no spoilers, but the sort of bad guys, the evil characters are corporations that know about this phenomena and are attempting to use it to their own ends. And I believe that is very correct in terms of the reality of what is happening in the earth. It's negative actors here who are attempting to instill fear and use that to solidify power. Very simple playbook, but they just have sophisticated means of doing this. Anyway, thank you.
I think also, Nick, is that a part of AI is being developed to help them in this regard, or to enhance what they're trying to do.
Oh, absolutely.
And we have to, with all intensity, continue embracing who we are, but at the same time, we have to be totally open-minded, because our education system has taught us to be closed-minded to everything, with the exception of what religion has taught us, as well as with the exception of what we are told by the talking heads on TV. So I do see a convergence, as we were talking about earlier, a convergence, macro and micro, meaning a convergence of the consciousness of the earth as well as the consciousness of spirituality. And that emergence is what brings into existence again, as above, so is below. And grants, and at that point, that's not going to happen. Let me put it this way: that's not going to happen until we are at a place where we not only embrace, but we begin to experience what it feels like, looks like, to be a light body. Are you seeing what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. And
so, but that's going. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was going to say that, and it is to know what that feels like, and to be that, it is a process of transition, so which we are in, but it is a real thing, and I like to use that great metaphysical and spiritual source, the Law of One, and they put that in there. They estimated that the period of transition that we are in now, which I think began roughly, like I said, when we dropped the first nuclear weapons, just because of the energetic effect that had, and the need to accelerate the process of healing and harmonizing all of this before we destroy ourselves. That period of transition, they estimate is something like 80 to, somewhat disappointingly, 700 years or something like that. But that was in the 1940s, and so that's, close to 100 years ago already. So I don't think it's going to take 700, and we are already seeing this transition accelerating faster than we ever thought it would. But
in addition,
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
In addition to that, we have to consider the source, who said it's going to be between 8 and 700 years.
Yeah.
And we have become the source for understanding spirituality in relationship to what science is. Because I do believe this, and you let me know what you concur or not, you guys. I do believe that we are responsible for the convergence of science and spirituality, as opposed to having them separate under the control of that European mindset.
I concur.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Sheldon. Go ahead.
And that's what happened in the Kushite kingdom. That's why, that is the reason that Kushite spirituality was centered in what is now called Egypt, Hakupata. In that space, it was centered in that space for that reason, just as in this landmass called America, the center of the conversion of spirituality and science was in the Grand Canyon, where all of the temples are, where the hieroglyphics are, that speaks to the same thing that we are talking about, in addition to speaking to the ability to move between dimensions. So I believe that is also one of the reasons that we were brought into this portion of this portion of Akebalon, because the energy is already here. That is necessary for us to do what needs to be done, as well as the energy that was present in Kemet to do what was done during that period of time. So I'll give it back to you, Nick.
Well,
I heard
can I
Sheldon
say
and Audrey
something?
too.
Sure. Let me say this first. I want to, when we talked about this, I want to connect the two between the rivers and what we're talking about here, and the whole concept of what Israel truly means. Okay. Let's do it. Go ahead. Ask you something.
Okay. This is Audrey. To me, it seemed like he was making an urgent call to those of us who know that we should really accept who we are, because when he was describing how they're pausing the CERN collider, but I did a little bit of reading on that, and what they're doing is upgrading it. They're putting in a lot of new technology, and it's going to be called the High Luminosity Collider. And what I take away from that is they are trying to capture more of the light that these particles produce, and what that's going to do in terms of their interpretation, I don't know. But the guy in the video was saying, we need to get our act together, and we have 4 years to do it, to realize who we are and that we are God. Otherwise, we're going to maybe have a big corporation take over and say, okay, this is what we found, and this is what we know, and this is and possibly have corporations create the narrative of who God is, and how God is and what God is. So he's saying that we have 4 years so that we get our act together, so that we create the narrative and we become who we are, who we know that we are. Just like we did in 11/11/11, we changed the narrative. And he kind of said that the timeline changed in 2012. And I think that's because of what we did at 11/11/11. So we now have the opportunity to keep going and to make sure that it's not corporations who take over the narrative in terms of what we know the truth to be.
Audrey?
Yeah.
Your research actually opened up everything for me. The 4 years, as you said, I see it totally different now because of the research you did. We're going to upgrade this thing. We're going to start it back up in 4 years, and we're going to control who God is.
Yes, I believe that's what's going to happen.
And that says to me, okay, you colors, you're not God anymore. We are God. We are going to usurp all the authority of light, and we are going to be God. So what is this? This is Ezekiel. This is what you're talking about, these pseudo messengers who are rebelling against God, are rebelling against who we are. And it is incumbent upon us to catch them from this enlightenment that they think they are to control, to remove them from the space where they are making an attempt to control control enlightenment. Because if you control light, you are controlling enlightenment. So that upgrade that you spoke of opened up a lot inside of me in terms of a clearer understanding and more of a deeper understanding of the urgency of what's being said here. Thank you. Anyone else?
Can I make a statement right quick?
Well, hold 1 second, Don. Will you get ready to say something else, Audrey?
Yeah, I think that's what the guy was saying at the end of the video. We have 4 years to get it together before
Thank
they
you.
come back. Because he said in
All
the
right.
end, we are gods.
We are God. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Don.
I wanted to say something about CERN. Like when we talk about CERN, like we just talk about the accelerator side of it, where they accelerate these particles. But one other important thing that CERN does was they also made a decelerator. And if you look on their website, I'm gonna read you like a little short thing extra off their website. It says you and everything around you was made of particles. But when the universe began, no particle had mass. They all sped around at the speed of light. Stars, planets, life could only emerge because particles gained their masses from a fundamental field associated with the Higgs boson. The experience of this mass-given field was confirmed in 2012, and like when they slowed the particles down, they created antimatter. And what they're basically doing is science is trying to be able to create the same thing the way that we're talking about how we create through our vibration, through our frequency, things like that. Science is basically trying to prove all the things that we have already known. But at the same time, I feel like when we talk about time is speeding up, and maybe 4 years, it may not be. But at the same time, I feel like we are in control of that because of where we are, and the same thing that they are having. And like when you're talking about AI, they're also using AI because every time they turn this thing on, they have they can't pinpoint and say, oh, this is exactly going to be the outcome. And that's why they are using AI, because AI helps give them calculations on what they think may or may not happen when they turn this on. And so because they can't have enough scientists in the room to do calculations and say, this is what's going to happen when we hit the switch on this bad boy. They don't know. And so that's why, but we know, we're starting to know what we can do when we are vibrating at the right frequency. We know the outcomes. They do not know. And that's the thing when I think about all the things that we're learning, we are learning because we know, and we know what we can control through our thoughts, through our energy. And they don't know what they're doing. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions or comments about what Dawn just said, or Audrey for that matter?
What was said for me resonates deeply. So I want to say thank you, Audrey, because I think that was a fearful question I had, or hesitant question. My apologies. But Dawn, your observation makes me think of what Kendrick Lamar sang at the Super Bowl that resonated with a lot of us. So to me, it's just affirmation upon affirmation.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Hello, this is Sheldon. Um, well, I've had quite a few things that I guess resonated with me that have come up. The first one, just quickly, is that a lot of this, from a much bigger standpoint, is just inevitable in terms of what creation and the creator is. So, for example, the physical, and as especially this country has concentrated, or as a collective in some sense, in terms of the masses and mankind, focusing on the hyper focusing on the physical, and doing that through the auspice of doing that through science, we only actually come back that physical reality is illusion anyway. You get into quantum physics, which is much more aligned in spirituality. The CERN and the colliders are essentially doing the same thing as they continue to push for science, scientific understanding, going that beyond the physical and going into spirituality. I do think that, well, I know, excuse me, that all of this in the collective conscious that comes about with this, with CERN, this with AI, et cetera, is simply pushed by ourselves in terms of trying to better understand ourselves and walk into who and what we are. And that essentially being in the macro and being seen in different ways. Things that we've already been talking about, things that we're connected to as relates to our ancestors, and now, science. Basically, I don't want to say latch on, but is more so catching up. The one, I guess, I won't quite say issue, but thing that I have with the video is the narrative, kind of, in terms of it being a sense of urgency, in terms of fear. And I think that actually runs antithetical to who and what we are, in terms of not only having the confidence, but knowing that things are on our terms and things are going to turn out the way that we want them to turn out. And so more so of a focus on that rather than the threat of these actors who do not have as much power. And the only way that they actually do have some sense of power is to distract us or to get us to buy into, oh, they actually have some sense of power. But just as with the physical, the further we push, more that we end up going into spirituality in the same way. The last little part of that, what I was thinking in terms of just going through school. And I remember George Clark talking about it as well. It was something to do with urban something. And of course, with George was mentioning being in college class and growing up, basically, in kind of rough neighborhood area, North Philly, et cetera. And then to go and read a book about what was understood of that from a theoretical standpoint of kind of knowing some facts, but not actually truly having knowledge and understanding and wisdom of that environment, is the same thing in terms of CERN is always and always will be steps behind us in terms of who and what we are.
Thank you.
One.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it's ST. I find it really interesting that we're talking about this, and we are currently we're closer than ever to becoming a one-time zone country, and ultimately that leading to a universal or global time zone where airlines and the military, they currently already use the universal time zone, but it looks like this year we could possibly be going to one time zone in the U.S. and then ultimately adopting a universal time zone. And there are different reasons or arguments for it. You know, they talk about the health benefits and some of the synergy that will happen, but what a way to kind of centralize everybody's thinking at a certain time of day. I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you, sir. That is pertinent to what we're talking about in a great way. Because that if that is the case, and I do believe it is, then you're right. It has nothing to do with making sure that things arrive on time based upon the daylight or the night periods. I agree. That is making every effort to synchronize how we think. We've already been taught to only think in terms of what the TV tells us, to align to our vision. We've already been taught to believe everything that the government tells us. We've already been taught that we are less than, especially if we are in denial about believing what religion tells us. But the synchronization of our thought patterns will be even worse than what they are at the current time. Because I am very, very, I believe very strongly that especially in this country, the overwhelming majority of the people don't think at all. They just parrot everything that's said as opposed to processing it. Thank you. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Anyone else?
Hello, Pastor. I have a question, but I'm not certain how to formulate this question. And I want to know if it ties in. It's one of those signs of the times question when you're looking at everything. I have been looking at a lot of documentaries on Mother Earth and how the soil is being stripped and how all the carbon is being pulled and the microorganisms and things are being removed from the soil, and eventually there will be no more topsoil. And as a result of there being no more topsoil, you cannot grow a crop. Then you look at the powers that be that are in labs now who are generating lab-grown meats, and they want everything to be processed that they can control. And then as we look at our carbon bodies, and the land is being stripped and the carbon is being taken out of the land, so to speak, so that nothing can thrive, or is this a sign of the time that's telling us to read this sign because you really are running out of time to be who you are, to save the planet, to save the people, to save ourselves? We have to be who we are, because the powers that be are only taking, giving nothing back, stripping everything. And especially when he mentioned moving from our carbon bodies, is this not like an alarm sounding to say, wake up and be who you are? Because everything is going to be stripped, and you will either die as mere men or you will step in and be God who you are to save everything. Am I reading this the wrong way, or am I seeing it because I see it ties back in even to the planet, to Mother Earth, and everything that we're talking about ties into that? Am I seeing that the right way?
You are. Oh, you are indeed. And it's definitely telling us you're going to be God, you're going to die. And I don't mean the you. What it means is that if we are not who we are, if we don't be who we are, if we fight in disbelief for the possibility of being light bodies, which simply means of being a visible presence of God, if we fight that because of disbelief, then what's actually being said to us is that not only will your children, those who came from the womb of the Babylonian woman, be killed or die because there's nothing left, those who are left, the worst kind of human who's in this earth, would be the only ones who remain alive and able to eat from the nutrients of the earth, because they are preserving the seeds and they are preserving different portions of land. Like right now, Bill Gates owns hundreds of thousands of acres of land in this country. Why do you think he owned it? He didn't put cattle on it, but all the rest of the soil is being depleted. Now, in addition to that, I also do believe that the hole in the ozone is while it is a detriment to life itself, if it continues to enlarge the rays, I do believe that we are capable of transforming our life in the earth so it can survive. And if we don't do that, then these bodies of ours we are God housed in these bodies, and we won't live in these bodies anymore unless they are able to receive the sustenance and nutrients from the earth itself. So right now, all of what's being said is interrelated. The understanding of the video, the time thing that Ed spoke of, the idea of the depletion of the nutrients from the soil, all of these things are interrelated, and all of these, everything that's been talked about has as the controllers of it, the same people, the Bill Gates, the Elon Musk of the world, the Peter Thiels of the world. All of these things are being related. And the heck of it is this: the primary space of depletion is America, is this soil. And that is the reason that like Peter Thiel has relocated his family to Argentina. They are leaving because of this. So I'm saying, in essence, and this is, I'm not even going to qualify it, I'm just going to say it, because if you don't embrace it, you just don't embrace it. It's time out for trying to make things easy on folks. The truth of the matter is this: we don't have much time left to do this, to embrace this. The melanin that's being infused into the earth now, with that hole, because of that hole in the ozone, we have to embrace that increase of melanin. And we have to understand that this increase of melanin is as a result of who we are, and is not just for us. We are God. And melanin is what keeps the physical world intact. It's what keeps the physical world alive. But it is light. It is our essence that keeps us that maintains us rather as spiritual beings in this earth, for the express purpose of being the source of life to those others, to the humans who are in this earth. And we are the attractors of melanin itself. We are the recipients of melanin itself. We are the distributors, because the energy that flows through the melanin from us also gives energy to the other life that's in the earth, be it animal life or be it plant life. Life comes from us. And that is the reason we have been told to dominate, meaning we have been told that if you don't take care of your responsibilities, if you don't be God, if you don't be who I created you to be, you won't be at all. Does that help you, Kathy?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question. Anyone else want to respond to that? Ask a question about that. Does that resonate with you guys?
Yes,
I
sir.
can't see you.
Deeply.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It does. I guess I relate a lot of what we discussed back to scripture, and I've been thinking about this for a week. Well, not for a week, but since you mentioned to me about Israel and is pronouncing it that way instead of Israel, Israel kind of looks at it, the syllables in it and what they mean. The IS, the RA, and the L. And I think a perfect example of that is looking at Isaac and Rebekah and Jacob being the transition of that. I'll come back to the waters of noon, because the waters of noon is where it all takes place when she describes what takes place in her womb. But Isaac represents what he knows to be spiritual, what he understands about it, and he moves in that direction. But he and Rebecca are one, and she is energized when it talks about his eyes growing old. So this starts taking place before the birth of those boys. And the transition is his recognizing that the time is coming that something needs to be done when the boy sells his birthright. All of this is a catalyst that is taking place within Rebecca. And so when Isaac's eyes start getting dim, you look at that two ways. Religion, it looks helpless and says, okay, Esau will get what belongs to Esau because he is the oldest, and this is what is lawful in the earth, what the earth says. But the spirituality of it is Rebecca recognizes that she being the cosmic mother has been empowered from the beginning, and she knows that this means it is her time. So he she becomes one, if you will, or Isaac recognizes that she is one with him. And the oldness can be one or two things. It can be the physicalness of the humanity that is dimming low and reaching for what it can find or what it can linger on to make sure that his lineage goes ahead and crown Esau. But what the spiritual side of it says is when Rebecca takes over at that point, and then Isaac recognizes that he is not old. His eyes are dimming because he is allowing the femininity in him to see the light. And that is Rebecca. And she takes over. And that is when the transition starts to begin. And everything that was lawful starts to become spiritual. And she defines what is the spirituality of what those boys are and what they represent, and the necessity of Esau, because that is the catalyst that moved it all together, although they were a part of the same coin. So it is through that Isaac sees it and he asks her the question, and she says, this must be done, or do you rather see me die? Knowing that she cannot die, but opening it up so that he can recognize who he is. And the transition begins when he speaks and talk about what the true blessing is. The blessing is not for the family as much as it is for mankind and for the earth. And when he says that, that is when it opens the door that Jacob will no longer be Jacob, but will be Israel. Israel. It is the coming together of all of that. And you do not have El, you do not have God until the feminine takes over and make sure that the transition takes place. So what we are describing, I think that started long before we were born, but kind of hit ahead so that we can start to see this thing spiritually happen in 11:11. And this video is to show us that what you have started, what you have begun, what you have brought forth, it is time to move on it. Your spirituality is awakened. The spirituality in the earth is awakened, and it's time for you to be who you be who you were planned, who you were designed to be. So the L in the earth is taking that rightful place that it belongs. And this is not for fear. This is not to worry about the 4 years. This is not to worry about the fear that he spoke of. This is just a way of awakening us to see who and what humanity is doing and where we are and what our responsibility is. So this is more of a time to celebrate and be awake than to be fearful. So thank you. I hope my example made a little bit of sense anyway.
Thank you. It resonates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. For those of you who are looking at this, Ron had no intentions of saying that these are man and a woman as much as it is masculine and feminine. Am I right, Ron?
Correct. Yes, I did. I misspoke.
Yeah. No. You didn't. I just don't want. There may be someone on here who do not understand or have not heard of the difference between a proper name like Isaac and Rebecca, as opposed to masculinity and femininity.
Yes.
With masculinity having dominated religion until femininity, Rebecca. Femininity began to dominate. Why? Because the eyes were dim, meaning that religion cannot see anything, right?
Correct.
Religion can't see anything, and religion just makes it up as it goes. And femininity said, "No, it's time to stop this. It's time to stop this game." And we're looking at Israel and the meaning of it. What does it say? Isis, Ra, and El. So the right brain, that's Rebecca. The right brain being infused into the left brain, meaning the wisdom of femininity being infused into masculinity, and masculinity recognizing the godliness or the created itself being feminine. That's where we are right now. The masculinity in this earth, they are the ones who are in charge of CERN. The masculinity in this earth are the ones who are in charge of AI. Everything in this earth that's being depleted is being depleted at the hands of masculinity's desire to dominate. And the masculinity's desire to dominate, while they are reflected in a body that looks European, they are also in the mind of those who look Cabelonian. So the mindset of this masculine desire to dominate, control, manipulate everything and do whatever it takes to maintain its control in terms of depleting the soil, in terms of putting holes in the ozone layers, in terms of creating vaccines that's going to be detrimental to the human body, in addition to putting a chemical in foods that transforms the testosterone in African males to estrogen. All of these things are at the hands of the mindset of the European, and the hell of it is this, that those who have the opportunity to live predicated based upon the mindset of the Babylonian, the mindset of God, have chosen in many, many cases to maintain following the mindset of the European, the mindset that is antithetical to who it is. And when we really give thought to it, the major players who are seeking to hold on to have a death grip on the European mindset of black males. They have a death grip on that, more so, far more so than the black female. This speaks volumes. This speaks volumes. There will be those who will die in the city of Sodom. There will be those who will die in the city of Gomorrah. This has nothing to do with homosexuality. This has everything to do, if you want to look at it, this has everything to do, if you want to look at it as homosexuality, it has everything to do with the affection that masculinity has for itself, if you want to look at it that way. But the whole concept of this is what? That masculinity dies in Sodom and Gomorrah. It loses its grip. And all of it does not, because if you look at what happened with this masculine entity called Lot, it went to a city just like some Sodom was. However, that means that there was opportunity for that masculinity to have a transitory journey and embrace the femininity, and thus becoming one with the Creator. Because the only way for us to become one with the Creator, the only way for us to have light bodies is for us to be one with femininity, understanding the goddess, the dominance, the wisdom of femininity. That's the only way that we are going to be able to survive this cataclysmic or these cataclysmic events that are being prepared for humanity. There is no doubt that we have been given, these things have been brought rather to the forefront of our remembrance for the express purpose of us being who we were created to be. Why is it that the covering for what we are doing happens to be masculine? It's not a happenstance. It is a reality that had to take place, because masculinity had to speak the truth to masculinity so that masculinity could stop being in love with masculinity and began to understand that the love for both energies is necessary. The embracing of both energies is necessary, and the undoing of the damage that masculinity has done. And I'm not talking about the masculine aspects of the European mindset. I'm talking about the masculine aspects of the Babylonian who have adopted the European mindset, who has been forced to accept it, yes, but not forced to keep it. That mindset of masculinity that has its origin in a cable line has opportunity now to become something that it should have been a long time ago. And now what we are seeing in greater degrees is that masculinity is digging its heels in with that mindset as opposed to letting it go. So we speak to that today. Why? Because we put it in the macro. And we put it in the macro because we know that the macro and micro are converging. And with the convergence of the macro and the micro, that means that what we put in the macro, in the macro rather, becomes what is received in the micro. And the micro means that in every individual mindset that has an Babylonian origin has the opportunity to be fed and infused from the macro. And we have opened the gates for that to take place. There is no excuse for the masculinity of a Kabbalah to continue to travel the journey of the European, or the journey that the European mindset has laid out for it. Because that mindset of the European that was laid out for it has been cast from the presence of enlightenment itself. What am I saying? The message that was attempted to be brought into the fold of the Kabbalah has been rejected. And that is what Ezekiel is talking about when he talks about the angels who were cast out of the presence of the Creator, out of the presence of God, out of our presence, realizing who we are has been cast. The thing that's masqueraded as enlightenment, the thing that masqueraded as enlightenment is religion itself. And the thing that masqueraded as enlightenment is the man is in charge of the house. The thing that it masqueraded as enlightenment is that masculinity is in charge of the world. Masculinity is the dominant force in the world. That message has been cast out. And now you do not have to embrace it unless you choose to, unless you are getting what you believe to be great benefits from it, to the extent that you rather enjoy what appears to be benefits than to be who you were created to be. The benefits that it appears that you are enjoying is one of a power complex, one of the physical things of the material world that you feel have brought comfort to you. Masculinity has to take into account that it is the force of continued damage to what this earth is supposed to be. And we today have brought an end to that damage and declared that because of the power and the essence of the right brain, because of the power and the essence of the light that we are, because of that, we have taken, we have relinquished to the femininity that which we sought to take away from it. We have been doing that since we've begun talking about the difference between femininity and masculinity. We have released all of that. So now what we are tasting, what we are embracing is a reality that the earth has not experienced since the beginning. And that is the reason that we are the beginning right now. We are the beginning, not the beginning that began in our first entrance into this earth, but the beginning of the God rulership, the beginning of the God making sure that the rules, the dominant rules of the life in this earth are those of Mayat. That's something that the entire population of this globe called Earth must experience and will experience, because we have taken the opportunity to hold on to who we're created to be and to purge ourselves from everything that we are not. And that is the reason it is imperative for us to dispel those thoughts that comes to us that are not in line with the principles of Mayat. That is not who I am. When we think about hate and anger towards people because of what they did to us or because who they are, that's not who I am. That is not who you are. Why? Because just like you would not destroy your offspring, your children, you would not destroy them who came to you in physical form. You would not destroy your brother, your sisters, who are you in physical form. You do not have the right. We do not have the right to make any disparaging, have any disparaging desires for those who are in different body types and those who are of a different mindset. The matter of reality is that our desire is for none to perish with that kind of mindset. Our desire is for all to be delivered from that mindset that is antithetical to what divinity actually is. Why is that so? Because without that mindset of what divinity actually is, without submission to the principles of Mayat, there are no submissions to the divine one, to the creators in this earth. And submission does not mean being enslaved. Submission means that you recognize the divinity, you recognize the source of your origin, and you recognize the womb out of which you came. And when you do that, you begin to, and when you embrace that, you begin to understand something. There is inside of you, now there is a soul. There is a soul. Not only is there a soul, but now what you are doing, you are embarking on a pathway that gives you a deep sense of what it truly means to submit, be submissive to embrace the godness, embrace the divineness or the divinity of the essence of everything that is. And by doing so, you are also have embraced the reality of ancestry. When the bodies are, when we exit these bodies, we become ancestors, not just to each other, but we become ancestors for the whole of humanity. Why? Because humanity came out of us, and we did not come out of it. So we are the ancestry to humanity itself, regardless of who they are or who they were in terms of their body presence in the earth, without regard to the abuse that they engendered in the earth itself. Questions or comments? Or is that clear? Does that resonate? Because I'm done. Unless there are questions or comments.
It resonates.
It does.
Yes.
Yeah. There's something that I've been thinking about ever since Nick mentioned it in the very beginning of our discussions, or near the beginning, about the survival mindset. Nick, did I get that right?
Yeah, I mentioned the attempt to keep us in the survival mindset was the attempt to keep us at a lower frequency. Yeah.
Right. And I feel like that underpins so much of what we're talking about with masculinity, potentially feeling threatened, or like that tendency to hustle or dominate. Like, I think that's tied to that survival mindset. And I think understanding who we are gives us the opportunity to leave that behind. I felt like that was really important to mention.
Yeah, I think the survival mindset is part of what Hegseth is doing now in terms of testing people to see what their testosterone level is. It's like crazy. But
yes.
And then being willing to give them testosterone therapy or whatever. It's ridiculous.
It's stupid, spiritually ignorant European mindset.
Total spiritual ignorance. Yes.
Masculinity. It's this whole thing we are seeing in the Trump administration, the resurgence of fascism. Fascism is masculinity gone insane, for various reasons. It is that negative, destructive, spiritually ignorant, selfish foolishness just taken to its social and political full extent.
And it also, to me, speaks to what this says is doing, speaks to a recognition that masculinity has lost its grip on humanity. And now the whole concept of testosterone therapy is almost like saying, I'm going to make men stronger so they can continue to control the earth without actually saying that.
Yep.
So this is totally spiritual in what he's doing, even though he may not recognize it as that. I'm done. Questions, comments?
Seemed like I remember way back when Evelyn having a question. I don't think we ever got back to her.
Okay, I couldn't see anybody. I'm just on the phones today.
Evelyn, ma'am, all right?
Yes, you are, but so much has been said. I can just mention it some other time, but thank you. I appreciate it. I'm good.
What is it, Evelyn?
Jay, so much has been said, and
let me say
I
this,
just
Evelyn.
wanted to. Yes, sir.
Not just for your benefit. Everything happens the way it's supposed to, except that we didn't get back to you. Is that what you're saying?
No, well.
Okay, then. So
no, that's not it.
But wait a minute, let me finish. Raise the question.
Well, I just wanted to say, ever since that video was released on one of those days, everything is manifesting real quickly, like you said. And somebody had mentioned on social media that since they turned off CERN, that their energy level is changed. They're not tired and all those good things. And I agree with them, because I used to be tired and couldn't sleep. Now I realize I don't have to have that amount of sleep that I was searching for. I do feel better. I eat lighter. I don't know if because of the sun or whatever was going on, but I just wanted to say, and also Thursday, I felt like I was in another dimension. And we always talk about being in another dimension, but I really believe I experienced that on Thursday. And I had to tell somebody, I told these girls who I work with in the group, I said, I feel like I'm in another dimension. And some of them didn't understand, but this one girl said, Miss E, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. So I just felt I needed to get that out on Thursday. But everything we're talking about is manifesting. Now, I do realize the more we transcend into our light body, the less food we need, the less sleep we'll need. So that's all I want to say. But a lot has been covered, and I'm just so grateful to be in the number. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is very pertinent to everything that we said. So everything does indeed happen the way it's supposed to. Wonder where I heard that before. Thank you, Evan. Anyone else? I think it maybe is a good thing to leave it where we are with this understanding of all that's been said today, is speaking to and helping us to understand the movement that has taken place between dimensions, and the stationary efforts that we not efforts, the idea, the concept of bringing stability to the earth because of what we are recognizing and embracing is something that we are experiencing. And as we experience that, we will begin to note a difference in our existence in these bodies in terms of food, rest, attitudes, emotions, etc. All those things. We begin to recognize those. And if you have not recognized them now, that we have spoken about them, I am quite sure that they would become more, you would become more cognizant of the changes that all of us are experiencing. Thank you guys very much. And I'm done, Ron.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I think it's a great place to pause. So hope you guys have a great day. Okay. Thank you for your energy.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Everyone.
God.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.